Handoff Adrian up the middle, room to the 20, cuts to the left to the 25, and Adrian's loose! He splits the defense! 50, 40, 30, goodbye, baby! Touchdown!
We bleed purple, and our bones are gold. Hear the horns coming out of our dome, behold. We are Minnesota Vikings fans. We love when a player scores.
Hey, thank you for listening to the Purple People podcast. My name is Kyle West. Adam Carlson is out there in, I was going to say Liverpool, but that's not right. Where were they at? London? How close is
London.
How close is Liverpool to London?
It's little ways, but not too far.
I'm in the same general vicinity, so that's got to count for something.
You're
right?
in the right country, so we'll work. Yeah. But hello, everyone, and welcome to the Purple People podcast. I'd like to inform you that 87% of women prefer Kyle West to the leading brand.
They do.
But, yeah. This is episode number 69 of the Purple People podcast, and I titled it, Howl's Moving Cassel. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with the movie. It's anime. Probably not a lot of anime fans out there.
Never heard of it.
Or maybe there are. I don't know. If you haven't seen it, I really recommend you check it out. I'm not an anime fan, but I love that movie.
And before we get going, I gotta make a quick apology for our YouTube viewers. Last week's episode, I messed up and put the wrong graphic on there. I ended up using the Chicago game twice instead of getting the one up for the Browns. So that is my fault. If you couldn't find it, go back. It's got the correct episode number and title on it. So you can listen to that one. That'll be the Browns episode. So that was my fault. I apologize for that one.
And he'll do his best to make sure it doesn't happen in the future.
Yes, I don't know what happened. I saved it as a different file type, and I clicked on the wrong thing in the program, and it all went downhill from there.
Well, all this week's quick hits are pertaining to the game, so I guess I'll dive right in.
Let's get going, Adam. Let's get into this.
Jerome Felton's back from a 3-game suspension. We saw him this week. Good to see him back.
Welcome.
All-pro fullback.
Welcome return for sure.
But with Jerome Felton coming back, we lost quite a few players to injury this week. The biggest and most spread throughout social media was Christian Ponder out with a fractured rib.
And a bruised ego.
Matt Cassel got the start for him. Jamarcus Sanford was out with an injury. Marcus Sherrill started for him. Nope, I got that wrong. Jamarcus Sanford was out. Andrew Sendejo started for him. Chris Cook is out, and Marcus Sherrill started for him.
Yes, there you go.
Yeah, they aren't messing around with that stuff, so I apologize for that, but there are plenty of injuries in the secondary, and the Vikings are plugging in whatever they can.
Zach Line, I don't know if you had a quick hit about that, but Zach Line was the player that got cut to make room for Jerome Felton to come on the roster.
He was not cut. He was moved to IR.
Well, yeah. That was our creative way of cutting him. Or not.
I hope whatever injury he has a quick and speedy and healthy recovery from, and he's ready to go next year. All right, let's go into our game ball and our donkey.
You're not going to talk about free beer for Jaguars fans?
No, because Vikings fans didn't need free beer at this game. And the fans in London sure were excited enough that they didn't need it. Ooh, they were excitable.
Right at the tail end, I was thinking about busting out the vodka. Because for a minute, it looked like they were going to drive down the field and we were going to blow another one. But
it felt a little too familiar.
Hey, our veterans came through right at the tail end, and we were able to stop them and get the ball back and come up with a win, 34-27 over the Pittsburgh Steelers.
And this is where our game ball and our donkey come in.
Precisely. My game ball is going to go to Jerome Simpson. Because we've been hard on him, sometimes rightfully so, other times maybe not so much. At the end of the day, production is production. He had 7 receptions for 124 yards, with the longest coming from 51, a 51-yard reception. He had a pretty heads-up play where he was able to get a fumble, recover a fumble from it was Cassel, I think.
Yeah.
Guys, I want to see Cordero Patterson put up those numbers too. But ultimately, as long as someone on the team is getting them, let's be thankful for that. I mean, he's out there. He's had more yardage in these 4 games than what he had the entirety of last season. So
absolutely, we'll talk a little bit more about that coming up too.
We're getting is good from Jerome so far.
My game ball is going to Chad Greenway.
Oh yeah.
10 tackles, 1 sack, 1 interception, 1 pass defended. This guy was all over today. And I wrote an article on the Viking Age about how he felt that he was doing too much, overextending himself. This week we saw him stay in his spot, do his job, be comfortable, and we saw the Chad Greenway that we know.
I'm a big Chad Greenway fan, and a little fun note, this is the first game that he's had a sack and an interception like that in the same game. So that's a nice little fun stat. But I'm a big Greenway fan. Love to see him do good on the field, and just an awesome, awesome game from the wily veteran for the Minnesota Vikings.
Absolutely. My donkey of the week is Marvin Mitchell. Now, I know you're asking why Marvin Mitchell. Or maybe you aren't. I don't know. But it is Marvin Mitchell because he was a complete non-factor on defense. This guy ended the game with no tackles. He had 1 pass defended, and that was his only stat. I'm really wondering, because when Bishop came in the game, it looked like he was all over the place, working hard. I'm wondering how much longer Marvin Mitchell's going to be able to hold on to that spot.
I can answer that one. None. After the bye week, if this team is legitimately going to do what Frazier said and go back and reevaluate all the positions, how do you possibly keep him over top of Desmond Bishop in the depth chart?
I'm not sure.
I have no answer for that because you don't. It makes no sense to me. But they're the professionals. I like to think they know what they're doing, but that one I seriously question them on.
I'm excited to hear your donkey.
I am going to label Christian Ponder my donkey. Wah.
What? What did he do?
Wah, wah, wah. You know why?
The guy didn't even play.
Exactly. He made Matt Cassel look like a star by playing like crap in the first 3 games, and this is the same Matt Cassel who stunk it up in Kansas City last season, and he comes out and he has like an average game at the quarterback position, and he looks like the savior of this team. And for that fact alone, Christian Ponder gets my donkey.
I don't know. I don't think that's fair, man.
Life's not fair.
Well, let's go into the game review. This was another in the series of just exciting Minnesota Vikings games this year. The lucky thing is that this time the Vikings were on the winning end of it.
Just barely.
That hasn't been the case lately.
No, it hasn't. Here's another fun stat. Out of all the teams that started 0-3 prior to this one, the Minnesota Vikings have put up the most points scored of any team to start 0-3. So even though we lost prior to this one, we were basically getting it done offensively, but just finding ways to blow it on defense.
Speaking of that offense, we saw Adrian Peterson get in the end zone twice. And he rushed for the first time this year over 100 yards. He rushed for 100 earlier this year, but not over. This is the first time.
Adrian got it done today. He had 140 yards on the ground. His longest was a 60-yard touchdown run.
That 60-yarder was unbelievable.
He had a couple unbelievable runs where you go, oh, he's starting to kick it in. If he's been rusty or whatever it was leading up to this, you can start to tell that he's kicking in that second gear that we're used to seeing.
And that second touchdown by Adrian Peterson, you got to thank the offensive line and all the blockers for that. Adrian Peterson could have went and got a burrito from the stands, came back down, and then walked the touchdown in. That's how well the line blocked that for him. It was unbelievable. We saw improved effort from the offensive line. We saw Jerome Felton back, and we know Adrian Peterson loves his personal bulldozer. That's what I like to call him. So Adrian Peterson didn't get involved much in the passing game. We saw one pass go at him that was just rifled. That was completely unnecessary. But overall, I want to see Peterson get more involved with more quick screens and things like that because I think that he can handle it and, to be honest, to be a great addition to the offense.
You want to know, I agree with you, but you want to know who I want to see used more in the screen game?
Joe Webb.
That's not the stupidest thing that they could do, but I would actually like to see Toby Gerhart used more in that role. I do think that that's a spot that he could potentially succeed in. He was used, he had 1 reception for 7 yards today, and I think that, no, I don't think you should be pulling Peterson out a whole heck of a lot to be doing that, but I would like to see that role increase for Toby.
You know who else had 1 catch today?
John Carlson.
John Carlson.
I knew you were going there. One for
right.
4 yards.
That's right. And Jarius Wright had 1 as well.
Production, folks.
6 yards.
Production.
Spreading that ball around.
It was a very...
But the ball didn't get spread around a ton. 11 targets for Jerome Simpson.
Yeah. Who on this coaching staff has Jerome Simpson on their fantasy roster? Is it Leslie Frazier or is it Bill Musgrave? Because one of these guys has Jerome on there. Like I said at the beginning of the show, production is production, and I'm really glad to see him getting the yardage that he's getting. Although I do still kind of have to question why he's the number 1 look when you got Greg Jennings out there. But really good game from Jennings as well, too.
Right, 3 catches, 2 touchdowns, 92 yards. Greg Jennings, I don't know. I don't know what to say. He didn't show up very much in the first 3 games, but here he is this week.
Well, you were able to see more balance on offense for the Vikings, and the run ratio versus the pass ratio for the number of yards they were able to gain for both. It was a really nice balance. And how much of that do you attribute to Matt Cassel being under center and being more decisive with knowing where to throw the ball and when to get it out versus maybe just the offense finally clicking for the first time?
Oh, without a doubt, Cassel's experience being behind guys like Tom Brady.
Mm-hmm.
You know, to me, that kind of experience is just immensely worthwhile.
It's invaluable.
Exactly. I mean, Ponder got to learn for, 4 games behind Donovan McNabb?
Yeah. Doesn't really count for much.
Don't help too much.
I'm sorry if Philly retired his number, but that's not the Donovan that we got in Minnesota.
Matt Cassel showed a lot of poise in the pocket today. He was very patient. He went through his reads.
Mm-hmm.
He was very calm. He completed passes. He checked down when necessary. He threw the ball away when necessary. Mm-hmm. I admit, I was not a big fan of the Matt Cassel signing. I thought they went out and paid way, way, way too much for him. I was wrong.
Listeners of the show, you'll remember that I said that this is exactly why I liked the Cassel signing, because if you needed him to come in and win a game, he can come in and win a game for you. Ponder wasn't able to go because of bruised ribs, so Cassel was able to... Fractured rib was able to step in and win a game for the team. The question now becomes, and this was kind of inevitable, especially with the bye week coming up, do you view him as a long-term solution for this season, or do you go back to Christian Ponder under center?
Well, let's be honest, no matter what happened in this game, nothing was going to change. Fans were always going to want that new-faced quarterback compared to whoever they've got currently because they think it'll change everything. Yes, Matt Cassel came out and had a good game. Now, from here on out, the Vikings have a bye week. That is when the staff will reevaluate everything.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get to see Ponder rest up. We'll get these injuries to Cook and Sanford and A.J. Jefferson and all these guys. We'll get them rested up, and then they'll have to reevaluate everything.
And they'll bring back Antoine Winfield, right?
Maybe.
That should happen. Maybe. My fingers are crossed on that one.
But it's going to be tough for the team to admit that they made the mistake on Ponder by playing him so long, because I really believe that this is Rick Spielman's boy. And Leslie Frazier doesn't want to get on his bad side because he only got the 1-year extension. So if Leslie Frazier benches Spielman's boy in Christian Ponder, will the wrath come down on him?
Well, he also wants to win games. And that's more important, I think, than him worrying about bruising Spielman's ego. Because
I think it's less about that and more about keeping his job.
Well, but if he doesn't win a bunch of games, he's going to lose his job. So you almost are entering a situation for Leslie Frazier where he could be damned if he does and damned if he doesn't.
That's exactly what I'm getting at. Is that it's a bad situation for this coaching staff to be in. Anytime there's a quarterback controversy, it's not good. Now, I like Christian Ponder. I think that he could hone his skills and he could be a good quarterback in this league. Do I think he's a franchise quarterback? Maybe not. Do I think Matt Cassel's a franchise quarterback? No. I don't think he really is. But I think both these guys can hold down ship until they can take a look at the draft, evaluate some talent, and find some young guy to come on in. So that's my opinion, is that right now I don't think either of these guys is a long-term solution, but I think that they'll do for this year.
I'm not really ready to give a final verdict on Ponder being a long-term solution yet, but what I think they should do in the short term is
trade for Josh Freeman.
Trade for Josh Freeman and bring in Tim Tebow and sign Blaine Gabbert and Denard Robinson. And
fans really want Josh Freeman. I don't
understand that one bit. No, I don't want Josh Freeman. Do you want Josh Freeman? I don't want Josh Freeman. Do you?
Well, I don't know how they'd pick up the salary even if they were going to. I mean, if they could get him for a late round pick, that'd be cool and everything. But then they'd almost have to drop Matt Cassel to get him.
You got to make that play after the season's up when they release him or whatever and get out of that contract. That's a story that maybe we'll save for the bye week show next week.
Yeah.
But my thoughts on Cassel for at the moment, I don't even want to use the phrase hot hand because I feel like he had kind of an average to maybe above average performance. Like it wasn't.
He ended the game very well. I think he completed his last 11 passes.
He did, but it's not one of those real kind of flashy performances that's going to make your SportsCenter highlights. But he didn't.
After watching Christian Ponder, I think it was pretty flashy.
He did enough to win the game for the team, though, and he was able to not make the mistakes offensively that have hurt the team prior to this one. Now, you can look at some of those, and I'm going to quote Jim Mora Sr. here, and say that you can look at some of those and go, well, maybe they coulda, shoulda, woulda been an interception, but at the end of the day, it wasn't. And some players are lucky, and some players just happen to be unlucky. And Cassel has been lucky so far, and they're coulda, shoulda, woulda. Guess what? They weren't. They weren't interceptions. Luck fell in his direction.
My dad always said, you can get a good look at a T-bone steak by shoving your head up a bull's ass. I'd rather take the butcher's word for it.
That was off Tommy Boy there, Chris Farley.
But yeah, those passes, well, not passes, but Matt Cassel was lucky. The fumble lost was recovered by a teammate. The pass to Patterson, where Patterson had to become a defender and make sure it didn't get intercepted, that happened. So yeah, well, Cassel didn't turn the ball over. There were opportunities for it to happen. Now, if he can continue playing somewhat mistake-free football, I mean, a turnover here or there, it happens. It does. You got to accept that. Even Tom Brady and Peyton Manning throw interceptions sometimes.
Although not this season for Peyton Manning.
No, not much.
I don't think at all, but I think...
But if he can keep managing the game and distributing the ball, I see him as a pretty good option for this Vikings offense.
I don't think it would hurt this team to continue to play Matt Cassel until Matt Cassel sucks, which is sort of the inevitable end of starting him, is that you know that's coming. You know 4, 5, 6 games into this, he's going to suck again because he's Matt Cassel. He's not head and shoulders above Christian Ponder. But why not play him? Because he's kind of got Greg Jennings in his corner a little bit based on some of the things that you heard Jennings say leading up to this about his presence in the huddle. And then, come on, the guy throws you a 70-yard touchdown strike and another touchdown on top of that.
I was reading similar things from other players, too, about how they enjoy his confidence.
Adrian Peterson even said that the team has a decision to make at the quarterback spot. So you've got players that are recognizing this. It's not going to hurt to play him in the short term, and then if he sucks, to put Ponder back in, because maybe the benching will do him good. It'll give him time to look at the hopefully future success that Cassel can have, and then reevaluate what he's doing, learn from it, and then come back out and hopefully have the hot hand for the team again and re-win. I don't want to say re-win the locker room over, but re-show that, hey, he's the guy for the job, and then maybe he can win it out long-term from there. I don't think that would be a bad situation.
You can't expect Frazier to come out and say, hey, Ponder's not our guy anymore, we're rolling with Cassel.
No.
That's not going to happen until at least after the bye week. Now, the team has softened the blow a little bit if that were to happen. They did say we are going to reevaluate situations at positions. So, you can read into that as you will, but I'm reading into it as softening the blow in case something does happen coming up.
He's got a bit of and I'm talking about Christian Ponder. He's a bit of you got to handle him in a certain way. Otherwise, I feel like you're gonna shake him up and hurt his ego a little bit. So you got to handle this correctly. And I think the injury, they can play it up maybe a little bit more, and they can kind of tell him, well, even though. And if they choose to go with Cassel, they can play it up as to, well, it's...
Let's not risk it.
Let's not risk it. It's near your heart. And Cassel's a veteran, and we're kind of going with the hot hand. And we're going to give you your job back, Christian, but maybe it's going to be a couple more weeks into this. And maybe you can benefit from, learning a little bit underneath Matt Cassel. And I think Frazier is the perfect coach for that situation. I really do.
Yeah. I'm ready to move on to defense.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about offense, so let's talk about our defense.
Now, a guy I really like, and I see a lot of potential in, but has been getting picked on a ton this year, is Josh Robinson. I like Josh Robinson. I see a lot of potential in the guy, but he has struggled early on. This game, he got targeted a lot, and he ended up with 12 tackles. So, although he didn't defend any passes, he's doing a pretty good job on the tackling. So I'm honestly not sure how to feel about Josh Robinson right now. I like him. I like his speed. I like his ability. But he is just getting picked on.
You want to know who I like on defense, Adam?
I'm sure you're going to tell me, so go ahead.
His number is the episode number for this week's show. Talking about Jared Allen. Wasn't it nice to see him out there just constantly in the face of Ben Roethlisberger? 2.5 sacks is what they have him listed as. And he was just consistently back there making plays, moving him out of the pocket, forcing him to throw the ball earlier. That's the Jared Allen that we want to see. And
if these referees were calling holding penalties, I think the Vikings would have 3-4 more sacks because there were some really bad holds that weren't called.
You got to stop him somehow, so we might as well hold him.
It's got to do the job somehow.
Yeah, he had 2.5. Everson Griffin came up with 1 sack. Sharif Floyd was credited with a half a sack. Chad Greenway had 1 sack. Folks, you think our offensive line was bad prior to this one. Steelers got some issues out there on O-line for sure.
Let's talk about that Everson Griffin sack, because that was a big one.
Heads.
The end of the game, ball came out. Kevin Williams grabs it, and they're able to kneel the game out.
Oh, that is the kind of play where you look at a player who's in a contract year, and you go, wow, that'll get you a contract extension.
And there's a reason why the Vikings have already approached Everson Griffin about a contract extension. Now, a guy they already extended this year was Andrew Sendejo, who got a start at safety this week. And Andrew Sendejo did not disappoint.
4 tackles.
He played pretty well in coverage, 4 pretty solid tackles. To be honest, for a guy that is usually a special teamer, he stepped up and played pretty well.
Oh, I keep saying this every week, but Xavier Rhodes jumping up and batting balls down. He's a big-time player, and whatever their reasoning for just keeping him in the nickel package is, after this bye week, that needs to go away, and he needs to just be out there all the time.
He was a fraction of a second. I mean, like a split second short of getting an interception because he jumped that route. He knew where the ball was going. Had it. That was so close.
This guy,
but not quite.
He's got the instincts. He's got all the physical tools, and oh man, I'm just excited to see where he's going to go because his future is bright, and please, oh please, oh please stay healthy. Yeah.
All of the Vikings' first-round draft picks are looking like they're on their way to maturing and developing into really solid players for this organization. I'm really just excited about it this year.
Plus, you combine that with Harrison Smith, who's consistently all over the field, and I thought that Aaron Henderson had a good game for the Vikings as well, too.
Yeah, he had a solid game, came through with 9 tackles, didn't let really anyone past him. The team kept the game in front of them, which was really awesome to see. Normally that defense struggles to give away some deep passes with some miscommunications, but we saw this defense play as a unit, and that was something that I really enjoyed. The linebackers thumped, the front defensive line got pressure, and the secondary stayed covered. It worked out perfectly.
And their patchwork at the moment, too, with the injuries that you labeled, and they're having guys who were... Marcus Sherrills is stepping up, and this guy's got to...
He made the team because he's a punt returner.
He's got to be drinking his 5-hour energy shots before the game, because he's going out there and he's returning punts and kickoffs and playing special teams, and then he's going right back out there on defense and running all his routes, and this... He stepped up big time for the Minnesota Vikings. I like the way he's playing.
Last week, Marcus Sherrills against Cleveland was the number 1 rated cornerback according to Pro Football Focus.
Yeah. Think about that for a minute. Like you said, here's a guy who, and at least from a fan's perspective, makes the team based on special teams abilities.
Right.
Clearly, he can do a little bit more than that.
Last season, he was a little bit of a liability in coverage.
Yeah.
This season, he's coming in. He is prepared. He is ready. And he has shown now for 2 weeks in a row that he is capable of taking on more of a role on this team.
Yeah. We do got to talk about what exactly is going on at the ends of games when we're getting burnt like that defensively for allowing the big yard plays and letting teams drive down the field and come within inches in this one of potentially beating us.
Yeah, this was a scary end. The Steelers could have forced an overtime if they'd have scored there, and that would have made this a whole new ball game. And the Vikings defense, which tends to like to keep the play in front of them, missed some tackles. And when you miss tackles and when you are giving up plays like that, you are going to put yourself in situations where you are going to be within 1 score, or you're going to play to not lose the game instead of playing to win the game. And I think that's something that this team has really been struggling with, is playing to not lose instead of playing to win.
Here's an interesting stat. You look at our time of possession, and we had less time of possession than the Steelers. We had the ball for 23:33 was our time of possession, and our third down efficiency was 4 for 11. We had a 36% on third down conversion rate. You look at those two stats, and basically that means you should have lost the game based on those two, but we were able to win it, I think, on the big play department, and I'm talking about Peterson having the 60-yard touchdown run and Greg Jennings having the 70-yard touchdown reception.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Those big plays really did a number on the Steelers.
So we laugh and we joke because every week you hear Leslie Frazier say the same damn thing in every press conference about if we can make a play here or a play there go in our favor, we win the football game. And it's easy to laugh at that and say, duh, no, it's not. But this game proves that theory that you get one or two big plays that go in your favor. You luck out in terms of having Jerome Simpson fall on top of a fumble recovery or Cordero Patterson knock a ball out that, the defender should have caught, and you're able to win the game.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
And that's about all I've got for defense. Do you have anything that you'd like to add?
No, I don't. Antoine Winfield.
All right.
I'm still pulling for them to bring back Winfield.
Next week we'll be doing our bye-week show. We'll be talking about everything and anything. We're going to be more involved with social media on this one. So
send us in.
Get your comments and your questions and all that.
Send us in your questions about Tim Tebow and Josh Freeman.
Sure.
And
we'll answer anything you want.
Denard Robinson. I want to talk about Denard Robinson for some reason.
As long as they don't get too personal. I mean, there's a line.
Yeah.
But all right, I'd like to thank everyone for listening and remind everyone to stay classy, Minnesota.
Yep, thanks for listening.
We bleed purple and our bones are gold. Hear the horns coming out of our dome, behold. We are Minnesota Vikings fans. We love when a player scores, we roar, ignite the stands. We bleed purple and our bones are gold. We're the kings of the north, our slogan skull. No Packer, no bear, no lion can beat us. We will punish anyone if they try to defeat us. He's the MVP, appreciated greatly. Running all day, 2K, that's AP. Make a defense cry or maybe beg. ACL stands for Adrian's crazy leg. He's the heart of the team, 28 holding up that Lombardi is a part of the dream. We will never give up, we find the faith to move past.